Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here, being the space. So, yeah, we'll see how today goes. This is kind of a spur of the moment recording. Many of them are. But anywho, yeah, so I wanted to talk to you guys about being the space in which things unfold. There's lots of ways to phrase this, to look at this, because it's spiritual, it's kind of ethereal, it's kind of it's conceptual more than it is tangible. You just have to experiment with it and play with it and get better at it. And you know, it's interesting with a lot of spiritual things that we need to do. Sometimes, you know, there comes times throughout your journey where you can't fully wrap your brain around what you're trying to accomplish, and that's fine. So you know, this is part of your journey, is to understand that that's the case and to try anyway. You know, a lot of people will stay stuck by over intellectualizing things, or they'll try to intellectualize it and they just can't quite get it, so they think they need more information. And you know, in spirituality, it's all about implementation. It's all about living it. Knowledge is basically useless when it's all alone. When it's combined with conceptual and or vibrational change in our lives, then it actually starts impacting it. But knowing things and then just being different because you know intellectually you know something, it doesn't really work that way. You know, I mean, and So why do I even say that? It's because it catches a lot of people up. Well, why does it catch a lot of people up? It catches a lot of people up because in certain areas in life, you can change things just by knowing better. Oh, you know better, you do better. Yeah, well, sometimes that's all it takes, especially if it's, you know, something simple, something that is surfacey, not in-depth driven. If you have an in-depth unconscious way of being or belief system underneath, and you're depending on surface knowledge to control your behavior or to change your behavior over the deeper, you're in for a rude awakening. It doesn't work that way. Our belief systems inside of us are deeper, and they control our thinking and our behavior much more than our surface thinking does. So, but you know, like I said, we latch onto things so quickly because we see them working here and there, and it's like, oh, this must be what it is, without really researching it and looking into it deeper and understanding it fully. And we do that a lot with things, like all of society does that, which makes it even more common, because what happens is, you know, like if you go, oh, when you know better, you do better. And it works in a couple surfacey situations, you know, and then all of a sudden you start talking to other people and they're like, yeah, did you hear? If when you know better, you do better. Yeah, I've experienced that too. Oh, okay. So that must be the rule, and that must be how life works. because I did it. I've experienced it a few times. And then there's other people that I know that have experienced it too. And they seem to think that that's the truth. So it must be. It's like, no, that doesn't mean it's the truth. It's, nothing, there's nothing wrong with people who haven't woken up spiritually. They're on their own path and they're doing the best that they can. And there's a lot of good people out there that are that are not on the spiritual path, but they are unconscious. And as a kind of a group, that group isn't doing too well. That society as a group isn't something that I would like to be a part of, because there's lots of problems and wars and dishonesty and greed, and there's all kinds of things floating around there, running rampant out in society that are socially acceptable, that I don't want to have as part of my life. It's the, what was I I kind of simplified that into a statement, and I got a kick out of it, so I jotted it down. I don't know if I'll find it. I've got a bunch of notes here, but it was something like, if the general consensus is unconscious, then the general consensus means nothing. Yeah, that's what it is. I just found it. If the general public is unconscious, then the general consensus means nothing. Right? So as a general rule, society is unconscious, hence all the problems. So, depending on where and who you ask and all that, but collectively, there's about a 75% unhappiness rate on the planet. So I don't want to do what the general consensus is. So just because like you're out there and a lot of people, a bunch of average people are like, oh yeah, man, that's it. Oh, that's true. Oh yeah, that's been my experience. Like people like, oh, then that, society thinks it's true and it is the way it is, so it must be. Like, no, let's think deeper. Think deeper. So let me kind of reset here. So we're talking about being the space in which things happen. And like I said, when you're trying to do this, you're probably not going to be able to wrap your brain around it fully. And that's okay. Just try to do it anyway. And play around with it, and don't judge yourself or get frustrated if you're not doing it correctly, because that's another thing that keeps us stuck. We go, oh, okay, I'm going to try to be the space. Nah, this is stupid. I can't do it. I'm so stupid. Like, no, like we got to get out of that energy. Like, that's societal energy. This is how society functions. Another reason why it's dysfunctional. But so we need to play around with it, and we need to be calm, and we need to be open, and we need to be relaxed, and we need to be non-judgmental with ourselves. We just need to play with this stuff. And honestly, it's easier than you think it is, especially when you come at it from that energy. When you're non-judgmental, you're relaxed, you're not trying too hard. You can't effort your way into spirituality. You can't try real hard to awaken, because you're constricting when you're trying real hard. When you're efforting, you're tightening everything, all your muscles, the flow of energy through you. It all constricts and contracts. So and that's the opposite of what you need. You need to be open. You need to be relaxed. So you got to get that judgment stuff out and just play around with it, man. Lighten up. Lighten up, man, when you're doing this stuff. So But what you'll find is as you play around with this and things like this, it's actually easier than you think, because this is our natural way of being. This is it's like going home. This is our home base. This is our natural way of being, and we're conditioned out of it, but it's still part of us. So it's about remembering, and speaking of efforting, remembering. Go remember real hard. Who sings that song? Who sings that song? Oh, I don't know. I'll stop thinking about it and it'll come to me. And then a few minutes later, you're like, oh, I know who it was. This is what I'm talking about. See, that constricts. We can't remember real hard. We need to let it go, relax, open, play around with it, try to allow it to bubble up from within. So playing around with it, like I said, it's probably going to be easier than, well, it will be easier than you expect whenever you get it. Even if you try several times and you're not quite getting it, just stay relaxed. Don't worry about it. Maybe it's not your time. Play around with it at another point, but getting frustrated is just going to delay it or prevent it. So do whatever you have to do to not be frustrated. Go at whatever pace you need to. That means if you can fool around with it a few times a day for a few minutes, cool. If that's frustrating to you, don't do that. Do it once a week, do it twice a week, whatever. But just kind of try to do it consistently. So you just try, and you try. You don't try hard. You just make an attempt. So what you're trying to do, and now, that's, I guess, the cautionary tale, the framework, stuff like that. But let's get really into being the space. What is that? Like I said, there's different ways of coming at it. Some, like, being the space basically means that you are consciousness. You are just energy, just consciousness. That's what you are. You are not your past. You are not your name. You are not a bunch of stardust. You are more than that. You are consciousness, awareness. So if you're awareness, it's kind of like being the sky, right? Like you're the sky, and then clouds pass through. Well, clouds are like experiences or people, and they just pass through your awareness. So it's about going, can I be the space in which this is happening? And it puts a little space in between you and whatever's transpiring. So that's one thing that I've been saying a lot lately. I'll just be like, who knows, driving down the road, or walking into a store and seeing a long line and going like, oh my God, look it, I'm going to be here forever. It's like, whoa. Okay. Can I be the space in which this happens? Can I just be awareness? Can I just be, like the sky in which this experience passes through? And there's, like I said, there's other ways to look at it. So it's like being the observer. That's another way that you can come at it. Like, being the observer of your life. It creates space in between you and your situation. See, what happens too much is our brain or our emotions, our thinking or our emotions, or both, enmesh completely with the experience that we're experiencing. This is why we get so upset with things, is because if something's transpiring that we don't like and we're enmeshed in it, we basically become part of that experience. Like, there's no separation, there's no experience and us. There's us enmeshed being a part of the experience. So if the experience is unpleasant, well, then we're experiencing unpleasant thoughts and unpleasant emotions because we're completely enmeshed with it. We're part of it. We're like, we're in the movie. It's like we're watching the movie and all of a sudden we get sucked right into it and we're part of it. And now all of a sudden, in the movie, somebody steals somebody's wallet. Well, if you're watching the movie and there's space in between you and what's transpiring on the screen, then you're just like, okay, oh, somebody stole somebody's wallet. That's not good. But like, we're not like, why would he do that to me? Oh my God, I feel violated. Like, we're not doing that because it's not actually happening to us. It's not, we're not enmeshed in the experience, right? We're watching it on the screen. But in everyday life, we get sucked into the energy of what is transpiring instead of being the observer of it. If you're the observer of it, there's space in between you and it. Okay, this is why we call it being the space. Can I be the space? So if you're the observer, there's some space in between you and what's happening. So you can choose, if you have that space in between you and what's happening, instead of being enmeshed with it, then you can use your consciousness to choose how to react. And you'll actually be able to think a lot clearer as well, because you're not overtaken by emotion. That's what, when you're enmeshed and something happens that you don't like, most people, perceive it as a victim mentality. Somebody's doing something to me that I don't like, or it's not fair, or something like that. And it instantly triggers these emotions. So we're upset. And then you go to somebody and you go, okay, why did you get upset about that earlier? And they're like, well, because somebody did this to me. And you're like, well, do you understand that you don't have to get upset? Well, of course I have to get upset. I mean, they did this to me. It's like, when you're one with the situation, you kind of do have to get upset. You don't have a choice. You're one with it. If something negative is happening and you're one with the negative thing that's happening, you're feeling negative. You're thinking negative. You have to. You don't have a choice. You're one with it. But if there's space in between you and what's transpiring, then you can consciously choose. Now you brought your freedom back in, freedom of choice. Then you can actually think before responding. It's not an automatic reaction. And you can choose. So, like, if somebody steals your wallet, you don't have to be upset. Getting upset doesn't solve anything. I think like, let that sink in. That it's really important that people get that piece, because most people walk around and they don't go below the surface. So they're just kind of walking around, and you have conversations and you're like, well, something happened that you didn't like. It's like, yeah, I know, I'm all pissed off. It's like, well, you don't have to get upset. Well, of course I do. Something happened that I didn't like. What am I supposed to be? Happy? No, that's not life. It's not you have to be happy that something bad happened to you, or you have to be angry that something bad happened to you. You don't have to be either one. And most people don't even know that. They don't even know that they have a choice, because they're so used to being enmeshed with whatever transpires in their life. And this is why people are on an emotional roller coaster. Because something happens negative, and well, then now I'm negative. My thinking is negative. My feelings are negative. I'm negative. Why? Because something external happened to me that was negative. So therefore I'm negative, and I have to be, because it just is. Oh, now I experienced something happy. Oh, now I'm happy. It's like that. We can't go through life like that. Just the external world determining whether we're going to be happy or whether we're going to be upset based on just random things transpiring throughout the world. Like we have no chance to have a life with any consistent peace or happiness to that, because we're simply not in control of what happens externally. So we have no control over our own happiness. If we are back in control and we're conscious and we're creating space in between, now all of a sudden we can look at something, we can say, okay, somebody just stole my wallet. Is there something I can do about it? Because we can think clearly when there's space. Now all of a sudden we're not enmeshed in it. We're not consumed by the thoughts and the feelings that are instantly triggered by being enmeshed with the circumstance. Now there's some space and we can think clearly, and we can go, okay, is there anything that I can do about it? Well, in this situation, no, the person's long gone and like there's no way I'm going to find them or whatever. And you go, okay. Or yes, there is something I can do. Like, it happened in the store. Maybe they have security cameras and I could ask them to find footage and maybe call the police and maybe we can track this person down or something, but like you'll be able to think clearly and make choices like that. And the other thing you get to choose is how you process it. And if you know that getting upset doesn't solve anything, like it doesn't make the situation better. It doesn't make you right or the other person wrong. Getting upset literally does zero to change anything. It does not make the situation better. It does not help you think more clearly. In fact, it's detrimental because you think less clearly. You go through negative emotions for no benefit. You walk around angry and victimized for a day or multiple days, years. Why? It's it's not going to prevent it from happening again. Preventing it from happening again is strictly an intellectual decision. Like there's one example that you can use your intellect pretty clearly. You just look at it and you go, okay, somebody stole my wallet. Okay, well, is there anything that I can do to prevent this happening from the future? Well, you know what? I'm going to go online and I'm going to search ways to prevent your wallet from getting stolen when you're out in public. Oh, okay, good idea. I don't know. You figure out something. Put your money in your shoe. Get a fanny pack. I don't know. Figure something out. But that's just an intellectual process. If you would like to take steps to prevent it from happening, though, what helps that is thinking clearly, which emotions do not help. They actually hinder. So if you're thinking clearly, you can think up solutions better and then taking action to implement those solutions. Getting a new type of wallet that you can carry in your front pocket or something like, and then taking the action and actually ordering it or going to a store and actually buying one. Those are all things that better your life or prevent you from experiencing something again that you didn't like. Labeling the other person as bad that you don't know, who knows? Maybe they're a loving parent of 4 little ones at home and they just ran out of money and their kid's sick and they can't take them to the doctor and they got fired and they don't know what to do, or they can't find a job and they're freaking out and they're sitting at home watching their child die. Well, you know what? I'd go steal a wallet too. Well, I'd like to think I would find another solution, but you get my point. We don't know. We can't minimize the essence of an entire human being into one act. You know, every sinner has a past, and I mean, every sinner has a future, and every saint has a past. And I'm a beautiful example of that. 20 years of being an alcoholic and just living the way that I lived. It's I have a past. So anybody that wants can go find out my past, or if they already know my past, they can be like, well, that's the type of person Glenn is. Glenn is the type of person that does this negative stuff because I saw him do it. Okay, so and it's, you know, that's fine if somebody wants to do that. I'm sure there are people who know me that do that, but I've done a lot of good things in the last 22 years since I woke up spiritually. And you know what? I've made mistakes in the last 22 years also. Not nearly as many as I did when I was drinking, but you get the point. So my point is getting upset doesn't do anything to benefit your situation, but being the space does. Not internalizing, triggering negative emotions within yourself, triggering a victim mentality that you carry with you for years. Like all this stuff, like you can avoid that just by creating space and consciously choosing how you want to interact with things. And if you are awake, if you're conscious, right? If you are consciously choosing what to do, you're not going to consciously choose to do something that's going to hurt you, right? Like suffering needlessly emotionally over something that it doesn't benefit you, and it only hinders you if you allow yourself to suffer needlessly. If there's no benefit and is only detriment to leaning in and becoming enmeshed with the situation, why would you choose to do that? You wouldn't. So you have to give yourself that freedom of choice, and that happens within the space. So, you know, walking around going, you know, you can play with this, you know, it doesn't have to be anything in particular happening. Like I can just be sitting here alone in my living room and go, can I be the space in which this happens? In which what happens? Nothing in particular. That's what. Can I just be the space in which nothing in particular is happening? Can I just imagine myself as empty space in which things pass in and out? Okay, well, what's happening right now? Well, I hear some birds chirping in the distance. Okay, can I be the space? Can I be consciousness that is aware of the birds chirping? I'm not attaching to it. I'm not even labeling it as birds chirping. I'm just being aware that there's a beautiful noise coming out of something in the distance. I hear a beautiful noise somewhere in the distance. What else is happening right now? Oh, the fan is on and it's making a noise. Okay, can I be the space in which I'm aware that there's a fan making noise? And oh, now that I notice it's making noise, I can actually feel the breeze from the fan. So can I be the space in which I hear the noise of the fan, I feel the breeze of the fan, and there's birds chirping in the background? And you know, like I'm trying to walk you guys through this. And as I'm walking you through it, as I'm speaking, I can't really be the space. I can a little bit, but not in a way that it really feels good, because I'm busy labeling everything, saying it out loud, you know, minimizing the fan to a fan and minimizing the bird chirping to bird chirping. Whereas if I'm just a space allowing it, being aware of all these things, I'm the sky, and all these things are transpiring within my realm of awareness. So now I'm going to not speak for a couple, for a few seconds. It's a podcast, so I'm not going to sit here silently too long. But I'm just going to be the space in which these things are happening. And what happens is you start merging with everything. You start merging with everything that's happening around you. It's part of you. There's me, there's this awareness, and there's these birds and this fan and this breeze, and it's all just happening in one awareness, and that awareness is me. So I'm merging with it. So that, another way to play around with this is like, actually, I heard this. I've done different versions of this, but I heard it said and shown in a specific way the other day. I can't think of the person that did it. I can't think of her name, but but I saw this video, and she was like, she said something along the lines of just sit and notice the energy around you. Just notice that there is that your awareness, and there is energy just all around you. And if you're just in the present moment and you become still inside, and you're basically mentally focused on nothing, just the present moment. There's no mind chatter for maybe even only a few seconds, but there's no mind chatter. You're not thinking about anything. You're just feeling. Okay. So, it's funny because I'm trying to teach you guys this, and sometimes when I do it, words come to me that can help explain it, and sometimes they don't. So that, this can be the hard part of my job, is trying to put words to things that there are no words for. They're just, like Tolle says, that they're just signposts pointing towards it. I can speak and point you towards it, but it's never quite it. I can never really say what it is. I can just kind of have little pointers towards it, little signs in the direction of it. And then you got to play around with it and find it. So you can never quite say what it is. The Tao, that's what they say in the Taoism. They're like, the Tao is the way, but they say if you can name it, then that's not it. So because it minimizes something when you label it. So when we're just being, right? And now who we think we are is a big hindrance in this. It's our egoic identity. There's different aspects of the ego. I mean, they're all kind of one thing, but depending on how you're talking about the ego, it can kind of seem like it has multiple parts to some degree. So part of your ego is your mind-made self. It's who you think you are. So basically, it's all based on your past, your history. In the present moment, you have no history. There isn't. Like you could have been a horrible person for 35 years straight, and then all of a sudden, if you drop into the present moment, you're not that stuff anymore. All 35 years of what you did is not what you are in that moment. You are a clean slate. You are just awareness. You are just presence. You are just energy in that present moment. The past is just a memory. It doesn't exist anymore. It's not happening now. So it's just a memory. So along those same lines of thinking, like if you just practice not letting go of your entire identity, letting go of your name, who you think you are, all your memories, you just let it go. Let go of that egoic identity, who you think you are, and just be in the present moment. And when you have that awareness of energy around you, all of a sudden you just meld into everything around you, into the awareness, into the entire universe. You can feel this expansion. It's a beautiful thing. You guys got to play with this. Yeah. So what was I was talking about? I'm just kind of, I want to present this as in as many different ways as I can. So you guys can have as many signposts and pointers in direction of as you can. Different ways of phrasing things click with different people, So being the observer, being in the present moment, letting go of who we think we are, creating space in between us and what's happening. Another way to feel this is go outside at night, and instead of looking at the stars, well, you can look at the stars first, but then after you look at a few stars, look at the space in between the stars. Just the black nothingness. No thing. Not a thing. Nothing. Right? Usually our attention is drawn to things. So we can feel this expansion. That's what you feel. You feel like this merging, or this merging with everything, or this expansion where you kind of become everything. It's basically the same thing, merging with everything or becoming everything. It's kind of the same thing. So look at the space in between the stars, that no thing. And all of a sudden, put a little attention on your chest. You can feel this expansion, this warmth, or this pleasant sensation in your chest. And pick an area. I don't know if you guys could do it now, but like focus on the space, right? Like right in between my fingers. Oh, well, a lot of people are listening to this on the audio, not knowing what I'm talking about. So just pick a dot of space in the middle of the room and focus on it. And you'll feel this expansion. You can play with this stuff. You can do it with, put your attention on an animal. If you have a pet, it's alive. So that sometimes that's easier. And don't label it like, oh, that's my dog, or their name. Don't do that. Just be like, like I'm looking at my dog right now, laying on the couch. Like I can feel the essence. Just looking at her, like focusing my attention on her without labeling. You can also do it with plants, a house plant, like or a tree outside. You just look at it and don't label it. That's another way, is don't label things, because as soon as we label it, we shrink it down into a concept, this mental construct of what it is. And our brain is like, oh, I know what that is. That's a table. No, it's not a table. It's a mass of electrons spinning around at incredible speeds with divine intelligence vibrating within each molecule that I can't even see. And there's an essence to it. And it's like, it's part of the universe, and I'm part of the universe, and we're part of each other. And all this stuff, all this ethereal, whoa. But then we go, it's a table. And it just collapses. All its essence is gone, and it turns into a mental construct, right? So that, I'm trying to create this spaciousness within you and give you different ways to play around with it. Be the observer, be awareness, be the space in which things transpire. Like I said, I've been doing it a lot lately. I've been doing it, driving down the car. Can I be the space in which this car drives down the road? Oh, look, there's a person driving a car. That's me. Oh, and there's a car that the person is driving. Can I be the space in which this transpires? Can I be the observer of this? Can I just be the energy field in which this experience is happening? Well, I think that's my best shot at trying to explain this. So I guess I'm going to wrap up, and this can be really huge. Okay. I know it sounds ethereal, and and some of you are going to love this, and some of you are going to be like, I don't know what he's talking about. And that's fine. But, honestly, if you were just to play around with what I'm talking about in this particular podcast and start to experience it a little bit, it could literally change your life. It really could, because it's a whole conceptual way of interacting with society that, like I said, creates space in between you and what's happening. So therefore, you're not enmeshed with it. So therefore, you have a conscious choice whether you want to get upset, whether you want to choose to stay happy, whether you want to take action to better the situation, whether that you want to decide that there is no action to take. Like, you can interact with reality completely differently when you're conscious, when you're present, when you're the observer, when you're not enmeshed with the experience. You have freedom of choice. And when you have freedom of choice, you'll obviously choose things that serve you better. Why would you choose something that doesn't serve you better if you're consciously aware of it? Like I was saying at the beginning, if you're unconscious, well, then you don't really have a choice. This is why intellect alone isn't enough. Intellect alone isn't enough, because it doesn't give you the freedom of choice. You can be like, oh, I should not do that again. And then all of a sudden you find yourself doing it again. Well, what happened? Why? Well, you didn't consciously choose to do it again. You just found yourself doing it again. That means you were unconscious and you didn't choose, right? That's the problem. Do you see? Do you see how that hinders change? You're like, oh, I shouldn't do this again. Or no, I want to make sure I don't do this again. I don't want to date the same type of person. I don't want to fall into negativity throughout my day. I don't want to lie to people anymore. I don't want to work too much and not have enough downtime. Whatever it is, whatever life change you want to make, if you're walking through life unconsciously, you're probably not going to make those life changes. Why? Because you're unconscious. And if you're unconscious, there is no choice. You're enmeshed with whatever's transpiring. So you're like, oh, I don't want to date this same type of person anymore because I've noticed a pattern and they're unhealthy. I keep picking unhealthy people. So then you go, okay, good. Yeah, I'm going to pick a good person next time. And then you go out and you fall into unconsciousness. Then you meet somebody and you're like, oh my God, I really like how I feel around them. Oh, they're so cool. I like being around them. Hey, yeah, do you want to get together again? Absolutely. Yeah, okay. And then next thing you know, it's 3 weeks later or 2 months later, and you're dating this person and you're going, oh my God, like I'm starting to see that they're the same type of person I've been dating for the last 20 years, the last 5 years, the last 10 years. Well, like, why do I keep doing this? It's because you were unconscious. There was no choice. You weren't aware of what you were doing. You were just going by past experiences. You were just kind of going with the flow of your life. And if you ask most people, do you know what you're doing and why you're doing it? They're like, of course I do. And yet they repeat these unconscious patterns and they don't know why. Well, no, you don't know. Right? But if you create space, if you become the space in which things are happening, if you become the observer, and now all of a sudden you're able to consciously choose, all of a sudden this person comes in and you go, oh, and should I date this person? Well, like if you're consciously choosing instead of just going with what feels normal to you, if you're consciously choosing and you know that there's a pattern of choosing the wrong type of person, what you're probably going to do in that moment of consciousness is you're going to go, well, I'm trying to not date the same type of person because of that pattern I recognize. Does this person fall into that pattern? And then you'll either have already seen something that says, yes, they do fall into that pattern, or your awareness will pick up on things the next few times you see them, and you'll be like, oh yeah, this is the same pattern. I'm attracted to the same type of person. Okay. All right. I see it this time though. Okay. No. So I'm not going to see them anymore because it's the same pattern. Okay, cool. All right. I have some more healing to do around this area because I keep being attracted to this type of person, even though I don't want to date that type of person anymore. So I need to do the inner work on myself and heal whatever's attracting me to this type of person. So, then you can do follow-up work with that, perhaps. And even if you don't, just the awareness itself, you're not going to spend a bunch of time getting emotionally attached and falling into a negative situation with somebody you shouldn't be dating in the first place, because you're going to recognize it a lot quicker. Do you see? This will literally change your entire life. Just this, because just this affects how you interact in every way with what's transpiring in your life. All right. That's going to do it. So, all right. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'm out for today. Talk to you soon. Let me know if I can be of service.